DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from DocTalk here. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to have a show with Dr. Harold Newcomb and Dr. Grant Crawford. Both of them are technical services veterinarian and nutritionist for Merck Animal Health, but they've been out in the field prior to their life at Merck, being a veterinarian, being a nutritionist, and we're going to talk about how to control parasites in the life cycle of the bovine. We're going to talk about calves, and we're going to talk about feedlots. It's going to be a good show, so stay tuned.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed captioning brought to you by VetGun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here with my friends, Dr. Grant Crawford and Dr. Harold Newcomb. Dr. Newcomb is from Batesville, Mississippi, and Dr. Crawford's from Jasper, Minnesota. Both of them are Grant is a nutritionist by training, and Dr. Newcomb is a veterinarian by training, and so we're going to try to make sure that we keep the riffraff down. I probably should have sat between both of you since I have both degrees, but
you can argue with yourself.
I do argue with myself constantly. Both of them are friends that I have worked with for many years. They work at Merck Animal Health, but both of them, before going to Merck Animal Health, had a wealth of experience in the field of veterinary medicine and nutrition. And so I asked them to come on the show, spend some time with us. They traveled up and down to Kansas and met in the middle, and we're going to talk about parasitology. So, welcome. And so why don't we just kind of kick off with some general parasitology? What exactly, when we're going to talk about worms in cows, what do we start to worry about?
Well, I think personally we need to figure out what the worms are doing, okay? Why are they so important? And basically the worms do three things, right? I mean, the biggest thing that they do is reduce feed intake. It's kind of strange because when we were kids, we always thought the worms would rob them of nutrition, but actually what happens is the worm prevents the animal from taking the nutrition in. And of course, if you're not taking in the nutrition, then the production falls. Whether that production comes in the form of milk production, reproduction, or weight gain, you're going to see a drop. And then the third thing that the worms do is they can actually alter the ability of that animal to respond to mainly like viral vaccines and viral diseases.
Gotcha. So it kind of goes back to that old thing. There's two reasons why cows get sick. Overwhelming dose of a pathogen or a suppressed immune system, and the worms can actually suppress that immune system, which don't let vaccines work and don't let growth occur.
Right, and what Harold was saying about the effects, from a nutritionist perspective, we really look at it as decreased nutrient intake is obviously important, but then beyond that, we have decreased nutrient absorption as well. So it's really two different things going on at the same time. Cattle aren't getting as much nutrients in, and then they're not able to absorb those nutrients as well either because of inflammation in the lower gut. So we can feed the best mineral supplement, vitamin mineral supplement we can find, But if the cattle aren't absorbing it, it's just going out the back end, and it's not doing any good.
It's kind of a double whammy. If we get to the point where we have clinical signs, it's too late.
Yeah, if you start seeing clinical signs by the classical bottle jaw and those type things, I think the ship has sailed. So the damage is done, and sometimes, depending on the parasites that are present, that damage may be irreversible. Like, say, with ostratasia, if you get a big load of inhibited ostratasia that screws up that abomasum, those things don't tend to heal; they scar.
Gotcha. And once we have scarring, that's for life. For when we start to talk about the GI tract and different things like that. So whether it's acidosis or parasites or whatever, we have to make sure that we're doing preventative medicine and preventative nutrition to make sure that we're not causing something that's permanent.
Right, and it's lifetime deworming is really the key. Making sure we stay ahead of the worms from when these animals are calves all the way through their reproductive life.
Perfect. Folks, we got a couple experts here on the show. Glad that they're here. We're glad that you're watching too. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more with Dr. Harold Newcomb and Dr. Grant Crawford.
Hey folks, thanks for joining me on today's Cattle First Minute as sponsored by Behringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. You know, when we start to think about breeding season and turning bulls out, the one thing I can't emphasize enough is to get a breeding soundness exam done on your bulls before turnout. And some of the things that can happen during the winter, whether it's frostbite in certain areas of the body or there's things that can happen that will cause a bull to become infertile, are things that you need to make sure. The other thing that's very important on a breeding soundness exam is we have to make sure that we don't have lameness or issues with the feet, because no wheels, no calves. So making sure that we have a sound bull structurally, making sure that we have one that's fertile and one that can produce enough sperm and enough volume with enough motility with no defects in the sperm is vitally important to making sure every year before you turn out to ensure that you get a calf crop, at least from the bull's point of view.
If my calves start healthy and stay healthy, I've got a good shot at making money. That is why I trust Clostrix. It gives my calves the protection they need until their own immune systems kick in.
Calf raisers trust Colostrix colostrum supplements. Colostrix is USDA licensed and proven effective. When your money is on the line, trust Colostrix.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Harold Newcomb and Dr. Grant Crawford. They're technical services veterinarians and nutritionists for Merck Animal Health, but both of them have practiced nutrition and veterinary medicine, and I've known Dr. Newcomb for years from when my dad and mom moved down to Mississippi, and so it's kind of old home week to get these two here to be on the show, and we're very thankful. This isn't just something about the health. This is also dollars and cents when it comes to deworming. And so talk to me, guys, a little bit about what you see in the value of a deworming program.
There's a study done back probably 15 years ago or so at Iowa State where the researchers looked at all the animal health technologies available for cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot segments, and then put a a dollar amount on what they're worth in each segment, and the one that came through as being far and away the most important thing you could do was deworming. In the cow-calf segment, it was worth about $200 per cow-calf pair.
Oh my goodness!
And that was due to improved breeding in the cow and improved weaning weights in the calf and overall improved animal health. So it's not just important; it's the biggest thing we can do in the cow-calf herd.
Yeah, Harold.
Well, just like Grant said, I mean, the deworming, as far as the economics of it, I don't think you can afford not to. Okay, you need to do a few diagnostics to make sure and see what parasites are in there, but just the value of it. I mean, there's been several studies that looked at strategic deworming, where you're trying to lower that parasite burden on the pasture, and you can see benefits to conception rates anywhere from 10 to 15, 20%.
My goodness.
That's pretty huge economically.
Yeah, and you know, we think about the decrease in performance and things of that thing, but it comes back to, if we're going to own those animals, we've got to take care of them. And this is something simple. This isn't this isn't something that's going to take, you know, a lot of effort. This is something you can do while they're on the pasture. This is something you can do when you catch them in the chute. Many different types of ways of delivering it.
Yeah, there's several options available, and when cattle are in the chute, it's simple enough to do it then. But if cattle are not in the chute, there's feed grade options available as well. So it's something that unfortunately slips through the cracks, but it certainly doesn't have to, because there's easy enough, convenient options available.
You bet. When obviously y'all are from different geographical locations, how do you kind of approach that in a stepwise? You know, as a veterinarian or as a nutritionist. What goes into the Rolodex?
Well, if you're talking about when and where and how to deworm, a lot of it depends on each operation. You know, if you're looking at the environment, obviously in the South, we've got parasites generally 365 days a year just because of our environment, right? I mean, parasites like warm, moist, damp environments, and we've got all that down there. But I think what you have to look at is, what can you do strategically to control the parasites, okay? So what I tell everybody is to try and fit it into your management operation, but apply a little science with it, okay? Don't just say, we're going to work cows because the kids are home from school this weekend, and that's when we're going to do it. If we can time those dewormings to where they will actually cause the greatest detriment to the parasite, not only in the cow but on the pasture, then we could make these dewormings a lot more economically beneficial.
Perfect. Folks, work with your veterinarian. He or she knows your area, they know your geography, they know your climate, and they're going to be able to help you. But the bottom line is deworm, because it's a huge amount of money if you don't. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about resistance with deworming and some of the topics in that with Dr. Harold Newcomb and Dr. Grant Crawford. We'll be back right after these messages.
Some call it a come from behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
If my calves start healthy and stay healthy, I've got a good shot at making money. That is why I trust Clostrix. It gives my calves the protection they need until their own immune systems kick in.
Calf raisers trust Colostrix colostrum supplements. Colostrix is USDA licensed and proven effective. When your money is on the line, trust Colostrix.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Grant Crawford and Dr. Harold Newcomb. Dr. Newcomb is a veterinarian from Batesville, Mississippi, and Dr. Crawford is a nutritionist from Jasper, Minnesota. They both work for Merck Animal Health and are both pretty dang experienced when it comes to things out in feedlots, cow-calf operations, and stocker operations. Let's talk about some of the things, because we hear a lot about deworming programs and resistance. What are some of the things that roll into resistance, or what are some of the things that you all think about in resistance when it comes to anthelmintics?
Well, Merck Animal Health has maintained a database where we've looked at the different classes of dewormers, probably for about the past 10 years or better. And what we've seen is a reduction in efficacy from the macrocytic lactone or the ivermectin type wormers, okay? So you kind of have to ask yourself, why would that be? And if you stop and think about what's going on with that class of wormers, when it came out, I mean, it was the cat's meow, right? I mean, it did everything. It killed internals, it killed externals, and there was nothing really any resistance. But then what happened? We got porons, right? So they got better because everybody could just pour a little poron in, and they thought they were doing good. And then what made it even better than that is we got generics. So they got cheap. So they controlled flies. They were supposed to control worms. And so people got to just applying it as a everyday thing, right? When they had the cow up, they put it on. So probably in the early 2000s, we started hearing reports of cattle that were wormed with some sort of macrocytic lactone, whether it be poron or injectable, that weren't working. And when we started investigating this is when we started finding the first tales of resistance. Actually, the first major case of resistance was in Wisconsin on a stocker operation. And what they finally figured out with that was the guy was buying cattle out of the South and overwintering them down there and bringing them up to Wisconsin to graze in the summertime. But in the South, they were deworming them every 30 days with a poron macrocytic lactone. And so by the time they got here, he was starting to see resistance where he wasn't getting the bang out of his dewormer like he was before.
Gotcha. You know, do we see some of those similar things in feedlots, or maybe not as often as what we do on some of the grass operations?
Well, in feedlots, it's a one-time event. So the first time those cattle go through the chute, hopefully we're deworming them. But one of the issues we see in feedlots is we just aren't accurately dosing those animals. You know, it seems like we're always underestimating weight when we're dosing something and overestimating weight when we're selling something. So we want to conserve a few dollars when we're dosing based on weight. And unfortunately, if we're dosing for the average weight of the animal, we're missing half those animals.
Yep.
So we may not get a complete kill of internal parasites in those animals, and that also contributes to some of the resistance that we found.
I think those are two of the most important take-homes that you can take when it comes to resistance. Is one, switching products up and watching that we're not doing it over and over and over and just using them every day, the same product, creating resistance. And the other one is making sure we get the right dose. So using multiple products, using the right dose, two great ways to combat resistance of insecticides with your cow herd. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the timings and how you can make sure your insecticides are working. I'm here with Harold Newcomb and with Grant Crawford. We'll be back right after these messages.
4 generations before me did their job providing this opportunity to me and my siblings. If I do things right, I'm going to lay that opportunity out for my kids.
My entire family is a vital element of a job you have to get done.
You know, it's just fun to be around the family and doing this.
And you'll do the right thing for the business. You will do the right thing for the cows because it's for a family.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Grant Crawford and Dr. Harold Newcomb. They're with Merck Animal Health, and one's from Batesville, Mississippi, the other's from Jasper, Minnesota, and I'm tickled to death to have them come to Manhattan, Kansas and spend time with us. It's been great to have you on the show. Some of the most relevant information we've had, and so it's been really, really good to talk about what the parasites are, what we can do to increase $200 per cow, and then the 2 things you can do to make sure you don't have resistance. And as we were offset, we were talking a little bit, and Dr. Newcomb, you were saying, hey.
Well, one of the easiest things to do and the best things you can do is use the combination or different classes together. There's basically 3 classes that are approved for use to deworm animals in the United States. The macrocytic lactones.
Okay, now hold on. Macrocytic lactones, that's like your Ivermex, your Dectomax, your injectable ivermectin or avermectin.
That's correct. Okay. And then there's the benzimidazoles, which would be the white wormers.
Yep, like, paste wormers.
Right. And then there's the imidathiazoles, which would be like levamisole. Those are the 3 basic classes that we have in the U.S.
I think that some rapper could use those words, thimerosal, and come out with some new beats.
Probably so.
Probably. But the 2 biggies that we use are the macrocytic lactones and the paste.
That's correct.
Those are when we start talking about combinations and using combinations. But you said something interesting that people said we could delay resistance?
Well, there's been a lot of work looking at this with modeling the parasites, especially down in Australia and New Zealand, and they came up with the idea that if you use 2 or more of these classes together at the same time, you could possibly delay resistance for anywhere from 15 to 20 years. Their research or their modeling has pretty much proved out over time. So it's, you know, it does seem to work, and it is basically one of the best ways. It's not the only way, but it's one of the best ways to help deal with and delay resistance, because once you start deworming animals, you're going down the trail of a selection process. So you're selecting for resistance.
Gotcha. Now, whether it's feedlots or cow-calf, we use the fecal egg reduction test. I know that y'all have done a lot of that, and Merck keeps a database on fecal egg reduction as well. How can people do that and work with their veterinarian?
It's a pretty simple process. What we suggest is that producers take 20 samples from whatever pen or pasture that they want to sample, and do that before those cattle are treated for worms. So whether it's a drench dewormer, a pour-on, or injectable, take those 20 initial samples, deworm the cattle, and then come back 14 days later and take 20 samples again. And those samples are just random samples from the pen floor or the pasture floor. They don't have to be from specific animals. And that gives us a measure of how well those dewormers are working, and then you can determine if you need to change up your dewormer program.
So within 14 days, we should have a significant reduction of the eggs that are going to be in those.
You need to see a 90% reduction in that egg count from pre to post, okay?
That's pretty simple. So work with your veterinarian, and they can send the samples to in and do a fecal egg reduction count.
Yeah, several veterinarians will do them in-house, and if not, there's several laboratories that will do those as well.
Perfect.
But the number 20 is significant because it takes 20 to overcome that day-to-day variation in egg shedding. So 20 animals will actually give you a statistical look at the level of parasitism that's in that group of animals. 17 is actually the magic number, but nobody will take 17.
I can't remember 17. 20 is easier.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been a great show. Great information. Thank you for what you do for our veterinarians. Thanks for what you do for the producers out there. I know you're all on the road. You're tirelessly working on this subject, and to be here was very special for me, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. If you want to know more about what we do here, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson with Dr. Harold Newcomb and Dr. Grant Crawford. You've been watching DocTalk, and we'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.